What was your worst consensual sexual experience? I am originally from Latvia and speak also Russian. Then moved to UK and went off few dates with English girl. She really liked that I know Russian language, but I didn't know at that point that it is hers fetish. So one night we were in bed pretty drunk, and once we got busy she said, "Oh yeah, talk to me in Russian," and I didn't really want to do it. And I said no. And she begged more and more until it kinda reached the point where I sort of wasn't into it all, and then I thought I'll just say something, so Island Orgy style I told her about my trip to Aldi buying milk and eggs and stuff in Russian. I read this entire thing with a Russian accent in my head and it made it so much better. She broke my rib. She was riding me and while repositioning herself she pushed on my chest, but at the level of my floating ribs. I had had a couple of drinks so I didn't feel the pain right away, but I definitely heard the crack sound. Next day and weeks were not fun. She was worth it though. Drunk hookup. She was riding me and I badly needed a drink of water from the dry mouth setting in. Grabbed her by the hips and drunkenly mumbled water. She took that as a cue to ride my dong faster and harder, choke me, and pour the full glass of water on my bedside table over me slowly. We're still friends. To this day she can't explain why she interpreted it that way. Little waterboarding during sex is just hot. When my husband and I were dating, there was a period of a few days where he would get an instant migraine immediately after finishing. Google post-skeletal headaches if this sounds familiar. It's a thing that can happen when you finish up a BJ and the response you get is the other party lurching over to the bedroom trash can to violently puke. Kinda puts a damper on things. I sometimes lose my hearing for about 30 seconds after sex. Post-skeletal tristesse or something like that. People are weird. Not just once, but the last couple of years my ex and I were together. He wanted sex every day. That was okay, but he preferred that I was bone dry before entering me. He said it felt better, and I like an idiot went along with this. Freaking every night. Then sneaking off to the bathroom to hold a cold washcloth against my burning ladder bits and crying. Go to bedroom. I'm what they call a pillow princess. What's that? My thing is I lie here and don't do anything. Before that I didn't realize being a lazy boring lover was a fetish. My ex done that. I used to call her a sandbag. When I first lost my virginity, I accidentally slipped out of her and unknowingly just continued to screw the sheets. She started laughing and I was humiliated. The issue with being an Orthodox Jew is that you might slip out of the sheet and end up putting it into your girlfriend instead. Guy told me before doing it that I was the first girl he was going to remember sleeping with. He was blackout drunk for the real first time apparently. He asked if I wanted a beer beforehand. I said okay and he handed me an already open one sitting on his table that was half gone and had obviously been sitting out for a while. As for the sex itself I had to show him how to put on a condom. He tried to use hand lotion as lube, which I politely explained to him was not a good idea. The sex was terrible, just awkward thrusting that I quickly just wanted to be over. When he finished he said very nice in a Borat voice and high-fived me. Freaking legend. I was dating a girl at university here in Ireland for a few weeks before she went on a family vacation to Disney World in Florida. On her return she sent me a text message saying she had brought me some gifts and couldn't wait to see me. She came over that night and we have a few drinks and then she pulls a plastic gift bag out of her handbag and it's filled with candy, a Toy Story Disney pen and a fridge magnet. Disappointing I know. Later that night in bed, things start hotting up and then she gets out of the bed and walks towards her bag again. "I almost forgot your present," she said in a very sexy excited manner. Now the lights were off at this stage so I couldn't see anything, but suddenly I felt her hands around my shoulders and a fabric rubbing against the front of my neck. I turn the light on and look at myself in the mirror. She has tied a red bandana around me like I was about to rob a train in the Old West. She takes one really seductive look at me, calls me Woody and starts talking like she is from the Wild West. American accent and everything. I have never been so embarrassed in my life, but we continue as she tells me I really remind her of Disney Pixar's lovable cowboy played by Tom Hanks and that it's a real fantasy for her. This one has me cracking up. As an American, I feel like it's the equivalent of someone whipping out a leprechaun outfit and asking to find my pot o' gold. I was having sex with some guy who seemed funny and charming, who I'd been talking to for a couple weeks. It was soon after I had left a very unpleasant, angry partner who had not wanted sex. So there I was sleeping with this new guy after a while of no sex. And I did not expect anything serious from new guy BTW, but during sex he kept crying out, "Oh, why didn't your ex want this pee? What did he think was wrong with you?" Legit laughing out loud at this one. D. She says I can't feel you and starts crying. I ask her to clarify. She then says no, I feel your dong but not the connection between us, then proceeds to break up with me while I have a boner. She felt the dong in your pants, but not the dong in your heart. In the middle of her riding me, we both broke down crying and admitted we were using this experience to try to get over someone else and it was tearing us apart. We ended up cuddling and crying the night away instead. This is sad but in the sweetest way possible. Doing 69 with her on top of me, she let out a little fart. That would have been fine, except she started laughing because of it and proceeded to trumpet blast farts in my face. We never 69'd after that and to this day it makes me nervous with my current GF. Upvote for trumpet blast. I was really drunk and waiting in line for a bathroom at a frat house when it was my turn to go and the girl behind me pushed me into the restroom and shut the door behind her. She proceeded to pull my pants down and gave me the toothless BJ of my life. I said no thanks and I put my hand on her forehead and pushed her off and she sat on the toilet and started to ugly cry. I had no idea what to do but I had to pee so bad so I just stood there saying I'm sorry until she left. This girl and I had broken up but we still kept in touch. One night I get a call from her because she's bored, so I agree to go over to her place. It doesn't take long for us to end up naked. We both knew what that call really meant. We also knew it might be our last time so we didn't hold back. We both went down on each other. We did all our regular positions. It was a bit of everything and it was great. The bad part was the next day. I got up early and was on my way to work and I got a text from her that she found my condom still in her. She was just joking about it and saying it was gross, but I realized I didn't leave it in there. I used 2 that night, separately, for 2 different rounds, and I remember taking them both out tying them off and throwing them away. She looked in the trash can and confirmed they were both there. So that one left inside her wasn't mine. We were broken up, so it's not a problem there was another guy, but I went down on her that night, and there was a used condom in there. Oh you. A girl called me dad. Started out with daddy, then she shortened it to dad. IDK what my kids are gonna be able to call me now. Hello father. A few years ago, a past partner and I were going at it. He had a cold, and his nose was running terribly. There we were, him on top of me, and a giant glob of snot just splattered out onto my face. His immediate split-second reaction was to quickly lean in and lick it off my face. And then he kept going, pumping away like nothing had happened. It was too awkward for me to stop him. It is that kind of quick reaction, clear thinking, decisiveness we need here, or a tissue. I was freaking my girlfriend. We had both only started recently having sex so we didn't have much experience. Accidentally slipped into her butt mid-coitus. She started crying and I started cuming. We're married now. A beautiful love story for the grandkids. My HS girlfriend tried giving me a hand job with this special oil. It was supposed to be stimulating and adventurous. It burned a lot. Another time I was blackout drunk and threw up out the window of an SUV while the girl was giving me head. She drove me home and we banged in the front seat parked outside of my house. Kind of a low point in my life. Oh well. At least you didn't throw up on her. Girl I was dating in university decided to try deep throating for the first time while in a 69. She gagged hard and panic pee a little bit in my mouth. I'm sure she noticed but neither of us said anything. It tasted awful. Definitely not an undiscovered fetish of mine. I quietly and chivalrous drooled it onto the bed and kept going with 69 but my heart really wasn't in it after that. And people say chivalry is dead. Posted this before, but I hooked up with a guy back in college at his parents' house. When we arrived, his parents were already asleep. The guy said we had to be quiet because they would be angry if they woke up. The sex was mediocre, and at the end he made it pretty clear that he wanted to go for round 2 in the AM. That was a big no from me. So, when he fell asleep I decided to leave. So I quietly dressed, snuck through the house, and unlocked and opened the front door, and set off the alarm. Needless to say, his parents woke up, he woke up, the dog was barking, and I just wanted to go home. Then the alarm security guard got there and also witnessed my walk of shame. At that point you have to start a new life. My wife likes to stimulate her clitoris during doggy style. I accidentally pulled out too far, and when I went to thrust back and I ran the tip of my penis into her razor sharp fingernails. The blood was the worst part. My dong does not feel safe reading this. After a great night I wake up, hear her yell, "Oh my god," seems her period started sometime during fun in the dark. So my face, her neck, breasts, the pillows, and then after we moved the sheets it looked like we killed someone. Guess it was a heavy flow moment. Still had a great time. Good on you for not caring about that crap. As a woman, I can say that it is absolutely mortifying to get your period during sex. Had a one night stand with a friend while I was traveling. I was out that night at a bar with friends. The only reason I ended up sleeping at his house was because the guy hosting me was out with the only key and not replying to any of my texts. So I said whatever and went home with my friend instead. He made a move and I was frisky and hadn't been laid in a while, and we had some chemistry, so I figured why not. At first it felt very nice to lie there in his arms as he gently stroked my back and hair. I was pretty turned on, and it seemed like it would be a promising lay. Crap went quickly downhill. He was overweight and not quite as nice looking naked as he was in his clothes. More importantly, he could not be bothered to do anything I requested. All he cared about was getting his dong inside of me. I asked him to go more slowly, more gently. It might as well have been like talking to the deaf. He was way too rough with his hands, dong, everything. I kept going with it and didn't ask him to stop because I was frisky and already naked and wanted the frickin' release, damn it. In his defense, he also asked me a couple of times if I still wanted to continue when he noticed I wasn't so into it, but it was a lost cause. At one point I lay there like a fish waiting for it to end as he pounded in and out of me. Then finally he pulls out when I ask him if I can just play with myself for a bit. As we are lying there spooning and I'm trying to masturbate, he ends up like fricking me somewhere between my back and armpit. No idea what he did or how he actually did that really. Then he came. I was so turned off by the entire experience that I didn't bother trying to see him anymore at that point. I did not want to share my orgasm with him. Luckily I had a train out of town to catch very early the next morning and our thing lasted until the wee hours, so I had a convenient escape and I bolted the frick out of there. TLDR. Have random one night stand with friend while traveling. Guy doesn't listen to any of my requests. Fricks my back. You were figuratively stabbed in the back. My ex-boyfriend talked mad talk about going down on me, so when it had finally happened, I was pumped. He does like one lap down there and comes back up, pulls me towards him and shoved his dong in. I usually orgasm from penetration more than oral, so I was fine with it until he got half a pump in before he came. The ones that talk are always the ones who aren't very good at it. I tried to go down on this girl, and it was like a vinegar-filled hot pocket that had been dropped on the floor of a barbershop. This is most disgusting and vivid imagery I have ever read. Kudos. My best friend dated this girl back in high school with epilepsy. They were having sex and she all of a sudden slumped over on top of him and started violently shaking. He said, and I quote, "I felt my flaccid dong start rattling around limply inside her shaking vagina." He had to call his dad upstairs, get her unconscious body all dressed before her dad arrived to pick her up. My wedding night was simultaneously the worst and best night of my life. We were both virgins and were so excited. We didn't expect anything to go perfectly, but we were really looking forward to just being so intimate and close together. I wasn't aware at the time that I had severe vaginismus, which is a condition that causes my vaginal muscles to involuntarily clamp shut whenever penetration is attempted. He couldn't get it in at all, not even half an inch. We laughed it off and cuddled the rest of the night, but I was actually humiliated and felt broken. After he fell asleep I rolled aside and cried myself to sleep. Oh my god. I had this exact same thing happen with a girl I attempted to have sex with. I didn't know vaginismus was a thing. This girl and I were kind of making out in a bar and all of a sudden she tells me she wants to give me a blowjob. This isn't normally the sort of thing I do, but it had been a long time since I had any sexual contact after a bad breakup. My dumb drunk self goes along with it. We find a dark corner table and she gets down to business. She had clearly gained some experience in this department and my lack of recent experiences brought the situation to a head quickly. Suddenly she stops to ask me something, but I had hit the point of no return. I tried to hold it in, but suddenly splodges geysering out of my dong onto my jeans and her hand. She just stares at me dumbfounded. I look around the room and see that 3 German guys had just paused in the doorway, and as soon as we made eye contact they pretty much all started dying of laughter while joking amongst themselves in Deutsch between gasping for air. I honestly cannot believe I did not die of embarrassment in my CM-soaked jeans that night. She was definitely going to ask you to tell her when you were about to CM, haha. 1. High school boyfriend. He shared a room with his little brother, who was threatening to rat us out if we tried to fool around. So we went outside to his shed, where he fingered me. Not 1 finger, not 2, but 3 right off the bat. Outside. It must have been November, because that kind of cold is seared into my head. My vagina is trying to crawl up inside itself. 2. College boyfriend. Definitely a nice guy and an aisle, or maybe just a tool. We were getting pretty hot and heavy and his phone rings. Dude, can you move okay? He's speaking to someone. Yeah, I'm hanging out with my friend right now. I resent being called a friend. Although it was a relatively new relationship, I felt that he was making it more casual than it was. Also, who answers their freaking phone during foreplay? After the phone call we go back at it for a few moments, then I don't wanna kick you out, but I promised blank I'd meet him in 20 minutes. Yeah, that one didn't last. I've got a few more good ones, but this is already long. Am I too late to share? I had a GF who, as soon as we started, would groan out no one stop, so hearing this, I'd stop. Then she'd get belligerent, screaming at me, what had you stopped for? You said to stop. No I didn't, so we'd have to restart the whole ordeal because the mood got killed. And I'm always the one who has to do all the foreplay. As soon as we get back to business, she begins the cries of stop, don't, and no. I stop, and we fight about it because she keeps insisting she isn't, saying she doesn't want it. We try one more time. She tells me not to stop no matter what. So, we go through foreplay again and we get to it. She starts crying for me to stop. I obey her earlier commands and continue past the rejections. She then proceeds to ball a fist and deck me right in the side of the head, then shove me on the floor while I'm dazed. She screams at me to go frick myself and storms out. Next day, she acted like nothing ever happened. I insisted on using a condom, so we did, but when he was getting close to coming he pulled the condom off and then went back in for a bit and then pulled out at the last second to finish. It all happened too fast for me to even be able to stop him. He gave me chlamydia. It was pretty crappy. That practice, pulling off the condom during intercourse without the receiving partner noticing, is a fetish technique that some fricks like to use to get off and was ruled as full-on rape in at least one court. Switzerland or Austria had such a case in the recent years, I believe. I had a girl once whose vagina literally smelled like heavily concentrated ammonia. Not even trying to be funny for the sake of Reddit, but seriously, it was actual sinus clearing ammonia. I don't know if that's some sort of medical condition or what, but she seemed completely unaware that it smelled like that. The second she took her panties off, my eyes literally started to water and my nose started burning, and I'm not joking. I was on a second date with this guy from a Cupid. One of my first dating experiences after coming out of a 9-year relationship, and I was pretty inexperienced. He was a nice enough guy, but we didn't really have a ton in common, and we both knew that. So to make up for it, we had a couple too many drinks. One thing led to another. He ended up in my apartment, and clothes came off. I can't really say I remember a ton about the lead up to sex, but the moment he started sobbing, mid-pump, and wailing about his Catholic guilt, is completely burned in my brain. I kind of patted his back for a second. I was drunk and a nice person and also intensely confused, and then kinda pushed him off of me. We got dressed silently, and then he asked if he could spend the night and just cuddle. I declined, and he rode off on his bike. I deleted a Cupid. Please be a bicycle, please be a bicycle. Had a girl come over after a good Tinder date. Very attractive girl, wanted a consistent sex partner. I joked about how she wasn't able to find it and she said she must be bad at picking up guys. Whatever, I was down. Anyway, she came over and gave me head. Fantastic, but right before sex she says she has some vaginal condition that makes sex complicated. Apparently sex is extremely painful but she craves it so she does it anyway. But the catch is she used numbing cream. I put on a condom thinking I'll still feel it and we go slow. About 5 minutes in and she asks if I'm still hard. I told her I didn't know. I honestly didn't. I pull out and there is blood, numbing cream and my erect penis. We stopped because it hurt her too much. I didn't feel a thing and was honestly baffled seeing my dong and not being able to feel it erect. Man, what a crappy condition. That sucks. This dude boasted about being great at fingering, then proceeded to scrunch up his fingers while they were inside me, so the knuckles were protruding, and twisted his fingers about. Was sleeping with a guy, whom I was testing the dating waters with, for the first time. Not only could I feel nothing, but as he was about to CM he whisper grunted I'm almost home into my ear. A week later I was trying to break things off and he tried to threaten to kill himself if I didn't stay. I told him, do what you gotta do, and left. I knew I didn't jump into a relationship with him for a reason. 2 weeks later he was chasing another girl. I hope she dodged that bullet. By George, I believe I am about to arrive. This will get buried, but one instance that comes to mind is a time I was hooking up with a girl and she was riding on top, cowgirl, facing me. I gave her a firm slap on the butt which got a good response out of her, so I go for a second harder slap. That's when she lets out a moan harder, so I bring my arm back for a full swing at that butt only to be met with near blackout inducing pain. I had missed her butt on the third swing and taken a hard slap directly to my own balls. I immediately rolled onto the floor in the fetal position, just whimpering when I hear a faint. Are you done then? Good times. Just a lot of teeth. So much teeth. I had cuts all over my boy parts. I was kinda hoping it would get better in the next few seconds and didn't wanna ruin it. She gave up and drunkenly fell asleep. I was flirting with this guy I saw in the halls in high school, but never actually talked to. He had a long-time girlfriend we all just assumed would be together with forever. They must have broken up after graduation, but we saw each other and exchanged numbers, and went out on a date. Something about the date just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't want to see him for a second time, but I didn't really know how to explain that, so I was hoping to just wean him off by talking to him less and less so that it appeared natural that we just drifted apart. Not cool on my part, I know. I'm just awkward as crap. I was getting ready to head up to the college for the day, taking a shower, etc. He pulled the hole without me. Crap, and I said something like I take quick showers. You're not missing out. And he said I can make it quick. He actually comes over. At this point I'm like, well, crap. He drove all the way over here for a quickie. I'd be a dong to turn him down. So I agreed. It lasted, not even an exaggeration, less than a minute. I felt absolutely nothing. And I'm not entirely convinced he even penetrated. I think he just dry rubbed, and that got him off. I mean, he didn't lie. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.